It's a place where clouds conceal rare birds, where animals blend into the forest, where predators hide in the shadows, and traditional people are disappearing. I've been photographing in the Amazon for decades, and it's always an adventure to return to this enchanted forest. I'm in Cuzco, Peru, sucking oxygen at nearly 11,000 feet. Up here in the high Andes, the mountains drop dramatically eastward into the great expanse of the Amazon basin, one of the most biologically diverse places on Earth. From high in the Andes, we'll descend 9,000 feet through the cloud forests, then travel down the Madre de Dios River to southern Peru, where a string of national parks form the largest area of protected rainforest in the Amazon. My first stop is a visit to the cloud forest with local naturalist Kike, who's going to show me one of the country's most famous birds. Kike?
Yes?
What distinguishes the cloud forest from the lowland rainforest?
Oh, this area is elevation 8,000 feet.
Yeah?
And are located in the east slope of the Andes.
So it's just the slope and the elevation that really makes the difference?
The difference, yes.
These trees seem much smaller than what I remember in the lowland rainforest.
Yeah, because no many sunlight, because always covered by the clouds. I want to take you a nice place called the lake.
A lek? What is a lek?
Oh, it's the place where all the cock of the rocks dancing and looking for.
These are those brilliant
females.
red birds, right?
Yes, the brilliant red birds.
And they're dancing because of courtship?
Yes, a courtship.
Ah, all right. Oh boy, this water is moving fast. Let's get to the lake.
Okay, let's go. It's a short walk to the lake. It's around the corner.
Okay, great.
This is the lake, and you know the cock of the rock is the Peruvian national bird.
The national bird of Peru?
Yes,
I didn't
and
know
also they call, people call cock of the rocks because the females nest on the rocks, on caves.
It seems like this forest is so intact. Mile after mile of this forest, I don't see any logging roads, any clear cuts. It's steep, virgin forest.
Yes, mostly all the cloud forest here is pristine. Good thing is very steep, so no good for farming. And also the wood is no hardwood, so it's no good for logging, so nobody touch it.
I just saw a bird. Okay, I gotta go. Oh my God. See, this is really slow. The bird's coming in. Oh. Okay. This is the payoff shot right now. This bird is so close. Oh. I need to locate. I'm trying to do this because the bird occasionally turns its head in profile. This is the prettiest of the males in a great open spot. Wow, that was fantastic, Kike. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
These birds were beautiful and the light was perfect, overcast and even. Now on to the deep Amazon. And if I'm lucky, we'll see the macaws, right?
Yes.
Bigger, redder,
And
noisier.
noisy.
I think one of the things about the Amazon that strikes fear in people is there's so much mystery in the forest. You know, there's so many animals that go unseen. Poisonous snakes and poisonous insects and big predators like the jaguar. So everything's a little bit of a mystery and a little bit intimidating. I'm traveling to the Manu Wildlife Center, where I'm meeting conservationist Daniel Blanco. He wants to save the rainforest by fostering dependencies between local Indians and threatened species, and by generating green revenue from taking people like me directly into an animal's habitat.
Art, I'm taking you to a special blind to see the red and green macaws and the scarlet macaw.
What's the biggest threat for these birds?
The black market and the destruction of the habitat.
Somebody told me $300 million industry in the black market trading birds that are captured out of the forest.
Yeah, this is true.
They don't really live in big flocks, do they?
No, they don't live in flocks. They live in pairs only, but they join in the lake or sometimes in trees with a lot of fruits.
What's really nice about this situation is we're far enough away from the birds that the plane of the film is really parallel with the plane of the cliff, which enables me to take a fast shutter speed. All the birds are in focus. I just love the texture of the cliff and the way the neutral color of the cliff really allows the bright colors of the macaws to stand out. What's your long-term goal for ecotourism?
We hope to protect all this area and to have macaws, other animals for a long time. We work with the local people and they earn money. They don't need to hunt or to capture birds to sell, or they don't need these macaws to eat. More value when the macaws are flying than eating macaws or selling macaws.
Ah,
Yes.
that makes total sense to me. People come down, they see wild animals in a pristine environment. The animals are happy, the local people are happy and earning a living.
It's working here, eh?
Daniel, what makes the Manu forest so unique, so special?
The biodiversity.
The biodiversity.
We have 13 species of monkeys. We have jaguars, different kinds of cats like ocelot, puma. There are 550 species of birds.
So, Daniel, what is that bird I'm hearing? It's so beautiful sounding.
It's the screaming piha.
Screaming piha.
Yeah.
Well, I've been called that before.
Art. The base of this tree is good habitat for fine frogs.
Frogs. This is one of my favorite subjects, Daniel. Oh, here's one right here. What kind of frog is that?
It's a tree frog.
Macro lens out, and we'll see what we can do. I'm just filling in the flash here. This is nice now. I love the ability to take these pictures and verify what I'm getting. That's just a lovely shot. When I'm photographing these frogs, in many cases, unfortunately, I'm documenting an animal that may not be here in the next 10 years. We're losing amphibians worldwide at an alarming rate, largely because of the ozone depletion. The harmful rays of the sun filtered down through this forest canopy that's as thick as anywhere on Earth is still powerful enough to affect the very delicate mucous skins of these amphibians. What a wonderful little guy. I've got another frog here. This is a very different type. This is what we call a clown tree frog. Beautifully marked on a beautiful heliconia. I love finding these little guys within the context of their environment, and it's such a designy shot. I'm moving in close, I'm using polarizers on the lenses, flash, great depth of field, camera, all perfect, and a really engaging subject. I think to get one in the tree? We're in a hole. They found a coral snake. There it is. My snake handlers are actually capturing the snake. What's so dangerous about these snakes is the head and the tail look almost identical. The markings on the tail and the head are so similar, and even though one's slightly bigger than the other, when they're moving around, it's very confusing. Herpetologists that are trying to collect these poisonous snakes and milking them to create antitoxins often get nailed. When you have a fast-moving snake in the rainforest, it's really confusing as to which end is up, and the snake knows that, so it wiggles both ends. The red colors and the yellow are warning colors. Usually very toxic animals like poison arrow frogs or these venomous snakes really give you advance warning not to play with them. This looks like a small boa. Oh, a little greeting. Now I can get this camera right in position without striking distance. I'm very brave with this one because it's really a small boa. If this one was as big as they get, I would be about 6 feet away. This range is, oh yeah, about 6 inches away. This snake wants nothing to do with me, but he's in a classic defensive mode. I'm going to quickly get some shots and then move on and let him be. I'm not really trying to shoot a pattern shot as much as a behavioral shot. I really love the way that the tail, the back third of the snake is wrapped around the branch, which gives it the support to be able to strike out. It shows the animal in its environment, but more importantly, what it needs to do to survive, which is really anchor itself on a branch so that it can react to whatever is coming within range. They're beautifully marked, and in the case of this snake, is very ornately marked to match the chaos of the forest it lives in. A tapir in the Amazon is a hard thing to photograph. These are very secretive animals.
It's going by this side.
Wow.
Going to this side.
Hey, guy, he's just sitting right there. Oh, that's beautiful. It's a magnificent animal.
The tapir is the largest animal in the Amazonian, and normally they are nocturnal. To avoid predators, they can run very fast into the bamboo paths, but bamboo has spines, and for this tapir, no problem, but for a jaguar, it's a problem. Guys, look.
He went
It's diving,
completely
yeah.
under the water.
This is another way to avoid the predators.
I'm gonna try to get a little closer with a wide angle. Okay. If I'm lucky and I don't fall on my behind going down this steep muddy slope, I think I might be able to get a nice shot. I'm gonna fall in this mud, I just know it. But it's really nice as it turns like this. This is close. Great. That's what a guide's for. Thank you, Daniel. You showed me one of the most difficult animals to photograph in the Amazon. This is fantastic. There's a three-toed sloth right in the top of this young cecropia. Even though this is a wild animal, they've evolved to move very slow. Fast movement by a sloth is equal to death. So the slower they move, the more they blend into the subdued green environment. Why does a sloth grow green algae on its fur?
For camouflage. There are a lot of sloths in the forest, but it's very difficult to see. Sometimes you are looking at a cecropia tree and you see a dead leaf, but it's not a dead leaf, it's a sloth.
Perfect camouflage.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
great. Why such long, strong toes?
To climb the tree and to be hanging all the time. They sleep hanging.
Hanging upside down.
Yeah, yeah.
He is in a great, great position right now. Daniel has taken me to this Oxbow Lake, which is a great magnet for all sorts of wildlife. Oxbow Lakes really form as the rivers in the Amazon basically cut new channels. The old channels become isolated from the main river, they become lakes. These Oxbow Lakes are magnets for a great variety of wildlife, including one of the rarest animals in all of the Amazon basin, the giant river otter. Once numbering into hundreds of thousands, there's only 1,000 to 2,000 left, so they're extraordinarily rare. They're very curious animals, but extremely difficult to photograph. And right now there's several working the shore, and they come up for just a brief seconds. I grab a shot, they get down, and you never know where they're going to be coming back up. You see them right up there. I'm trying to follow a troop of squirrel monkeys, and they're really funny little monkeys, and occasionally they come out onto the bamboo tips and watch us. They're very curious little primates. Trying to follow a troop of squirrel monkeys bounding through these trees is driving me nuts, quite honestly. They just bits of glimpses as they come in and out of this dense vegetation. I'm using a 400mm lens with image stabilization, which is absolutely perfect for the shots I'm getting right now, which is of some Watsons, which are really strange birds. They almost look like a bird that is prehistoric. Really interesting birds that generally hang out on the edges of water courses, and in this case, in Oxbow Lake. They're so funny looking. My last stop in the Manu region, Daniel and the boatman are taking me into one of the last tribes of the Amazon that still cling to their traditional ways, the Macagenga. So this is it, this is the clearing.
Yeah, this is the traditional house of the Macagengas.
When I walk into a village, I really look all across the village and I pull out the vignettes. What are the traditional implements that they use, the baskets that they use, the food, the clothing, any adornment? All of those are subject to my camera. What I find fascinating about this shot is not only the nice backdrop, but also the textures, the patterns of the baskets that they make here in the forest, but also the beautiful patterns on their kushmas or their cotton robes. I'm photographing this man eating bits of peccary. You know, part of the ecotourism that works near Manu Wildlife Center is that the Patagonia people have agreed not to hunt the really prime animals like jaguar or tapirs and the really rare animals like the giant river otter. They are allowed to hunt the peccary, which is here in great numbers. So they're able to hunt their traditional ways without really harming the ecosystem. And in trade, some of the villagers are employed by the lodge to work there, so they're deriving a really good income and livelihood. Whenever I'm in a village like this, I'm really trying to get a full facet of the behaviors, the cultures, the details that really convey a sense of location for the tribes, but also how they live. It just gives it a nice texture. It tells a much more complete story to the photographs I'm using. This is such a great opportunity to be in the Amazon with a tribe that really is living on the margins. They got 1 foot slightly into the Western culture, but most of what they do is still hunt and gather foods from the forest in their traditional ways. It's a great privilege for me to witness something that's been happening for the millennia, but also, in a larger sense, to record something that may not happen far into the future. It's a nice shot right there. There's a sense of urgency and a sense of importance to the work that I'm doing. I doubt very much longer tribes in the Amazon will be using bow and arrow to hunt fish. And so getting a visual record of that is really important for me. It's a place where granite peaks touch the clouds, where icebergs catch the light, and Andean condors rule the sky. Patagonia has it all. I've been documenting wild places for decades, and I'm still seduced by Patagonia's rugged beauty. I'm Art Wolfe. Join me on Travels to the Edge. Patagonia straddles Chile and Argentina and stretches nearly 2,400 kilometers from the Rio Colorado in the north to Tierra del Fuego in the south. Torres del Paine in the southern Andes includes some of the most diverse and spectacular parts of this rugged region. I've been coming down to Patagonia for the last 15 years, and one of the places I love to come to, of course, is Torres del Paine. And it's not just because of the spectacular landscapes, it's because there's so many animals to photograph here, one of which is the Guadaco. These are great animals of these open plains. One of the reasons they thrive here is they can run away from their chief predator, the puma. This is great. This is a herd of mothers and babies. The babies, known as chulengos, are really probably born within the last month. They're great to photograph because they're so clean and fuzzy and pure looking. And then to have the interaction between the mothers and the babies, they're really chilled out right now, but I bet you when I get closer, they'll start to move around and interact, and that's exactly the kind of behavior I'm hoping for. I like to stay low and really slow. If they're sitting down and all of a sudden I'm silhouetted against a bright sky, it can intimidate them. The more relaxed they become and remain, the better shots I can get. As I approach them, I'm constantly watching their behavior. If they start to move too fast away from me, I'm going to stop, sit down, let them relax. But they're more interested in what's happening between the males chasing each other. The babies are staying close. I think it's a great situation to get some nice shots. The fact that it's overcast right now is perfect because with this many animals, bright sunshine creates a lot of harsh shadows on the animals. It's hard to get a great shot of multiple animals in bright sunshine. I'm choosing to use a fairly small telephoto lens because I'll be able to zoom back and take in more of the animals. If it was just one animal, I probably would shoot a more powerful lens like a 400. But with a group, I always tend to use the wider angles, incorporate more of the animals in the environment. In the distance on the ridge, you can see a Guadaco silhouetted. He's watching out for pumas. These are herd animals, and when they sit, they face all different directions, just keeping an eye out for the odd puma that might happen by. That is a male calling. He's moving the women and the babies around right now. This whole valley is a series of small lakes surrounded by very luxuriant green grass, and that is why these guanacos are here. It's great for the babies. It's protected out of the harsh winds up on the higher hills. This is a natural nursery for these guanacos. Speaking of which, right now I've got two babies just staring right at me. In fact, they're so close. I need to make a vertical shot of this. This is a great shot. They're just staring at me, all lined up perfectly. They're very curious at this age. That's it, guys. They're looking straight at me. This is fantastic action as these babies just keep running back and forth in front of me. Fantastic.
I think it's important when people travel all the way to Patagonia and ultimately towards Del Paine to actually see the peaks the park is named after. These are very impressive 10,000-foot spires of granite. And on the other end, Cuernos Towers is equally dramatic.
Well, I was just driving up the road, I spotted one of my favorite little animals of this park, a Patagonian fox. So I'm gonna go down into this little low area and see if I can't find it. This is a really nice situation with this very, very tame fox. And with the beautiful backdrop of the Andes, I'm shooting a wide angle. It's very rare that you'd be able to get a fox this close. I'm going to try to reposition myself and keep the fox between the mountains and me and also the light. So if I can squeeze around, and I've got his full attention at this point. Beautiful. Now I'm getting in a position where I've got the spectacular mountains behind. Really nice sequence as he walked right in front of the mountains. They're beautiful little foxes. They're known as gray foxes, or in this part of the world, in Patagonia, the Patagonian fox. In very cold environments, very windy environments, animals tend to have smaller appendages, you know, shorter ears, shorter legs, just to retain the heat. He's never been hunted, nor has its ancestors ever been hunted in this great biosphere reserve. Whenever I'm around an animal this close or this tame, I'm keeping my voice moving, often talking to him in very low, reassuring terms. And there's something about breaking that silence that also breaks the tension between the animal and the human. They're really, really quite innocent in their behavior around humans. And for me, it's a great thing because I'm shooting with extreme wide angle with these rugged Cuernos towers as a backdrop. It gives this fox a great sense of place. Oh, this is really nice. What's your name? Huh? A much larger herd. I hope they're not after me. Guadacos are strange animals, but about 15 feet, 20 feet in front of me, there's a herd of about 50 or 60. And this is much denser than the herd that we just were photographing over at the nursery. They're much tighter packed, and they seem so chilled out. I think I can get a lot closer. I'm gonna use one last trick because the sky is so dramatic. I want to really darken it so that the animals themselves really stand out. So I'm gonna just use this graduated neutral density filter that I used quite often and just frame this thing. But first I have to take the lens cap off. This is such a great opportunity to get this close to these wild animals. Patagonia really delivers when it comes to that. Foxes that walk right up to you, guanacos that are just chilled out, and it enables me to use these wider angles to take the really dramatic landscapes, which is so indicative of Patagonia. So big skies, big mountains, and wonderful wildlife. I'm walking through an ancient beech forest ravaged by the constant winds that blow down Lago Gray or Lake Gray. And what also blows down this lake are enormous icebergs that have been calved by the Gray Glacier 7 miles up the lake. And it's those icebergs that I'm on my way to photograph. Seven-tenths of an iceberg lies below the surface. We're talking about an enormous mass of ice. What's fun for me when I'm photographing icebergs is the fact that they're constantly rotating and changing shape, always giving me multiple opportunities with the same piece of ice.
I love to photograph about icebergs is the way the light fractures, and although they're not truly blue, they appear really blue. And in this case, some of these bigger ones are amazingly blue. Fantastic. I love this stuff. There's over 300 different species of birds that live in Patagonia, and this is one of the more famous ones, the Caracara. It's a bird of prey, very, very tame, and it looks pretty impressive when you see it by itself, but when you see it in comparison to a condor, it's tiny. It's an amazing bird, however. They're full of energy and spunk, and they can walk right up to foxes. They're very unintimidated. Come down to the edge of this lake to photograph a beautiful view of the Cuernos Towers in early morning light, and yet it just isn't happening. There's just no light on these mountains, unfortunately. But what is happening is an amazing, spectacular cloud has formed right over the top of these mountains, and that is now going to be my main focus. And I guess the point I'm trying to make here is I'm always trying to look for something that may be a secondary subject that becomes my most important shot out of the day. Wow, that looks like a pretty spectacular waterfall. A lot of layers. That's exactly what I like to see in a waterfall, is layers of rock and water going over, and with long exposures, this should be a very, very nice shot. Patagonia is about big. Big mountains, big open landscapes, big glaciers, big rivers, and what those rivers have are big waterfalls. So I can't wait to experience this one. There's different ways one can photograph waterfalls. Most people just tend to shoot a postcard. What I try to do is go in and shoot the details. In this case, there's a series of waterfalls over some steps that I've zoomed in across the river. I put a polarizer on, which takes a little bit of the shine off the water, but more importantly, gives me the ability to take a longer exposure, creating more of a ribbony effect with the water, which creates an artistic slant on this waterfall.
One of the challenges in this windswept environment is to find the serene moments.
After spending several days in Torres del Paine, it becomes painfully obvious that the only time when the wind isn't blowing is early in the morning. And why that's important is if I ever want to get reflections or get a different type of shot other than just the tight shots of the mountains, this is the time, the margin of the day when I'm going to work. I found this tiny little pond next to a road, and I'm going to have to get very low to try to incorporate the reflection of these towers of pine. And with a tripod like this, I have the ability to move the legs independently and literally get it right down in the mud, which enables me to get the angle of the reflection that I'm going to need. And suddenly, what looked like nothing from a position 6 feet above right down into the water looks like a very, very nice scene. And the last thing I'm going to need to do is use a neutral density filter where I'm going to bring it right over the top portion of the frame, because invariably reflections are 2 stops darker than the sky above, and this will bring the entire image into proper alignment. And it looks perfect. I have found a mother and father kelp goose with 8 little goslings. The male is all white on the top and female is gray but beautiful yellow legs. There's 8 little goslings that have probably hatched out within the last week. It is a matter of getting in, getting close, letting them relax to your presence. And some of my best shots have been where the mother's standing and all the little 8 goslings are standing right below it.
My last stop in Patagonia is high in the Andes, in the realm of one of the world's most majestic birds. The most effective way to photograph condors is to take the camera off the tripod so you can pan with them, because when they literally come so close, they're moving very, very fast. And it would be very hard pressed. This is a beautiful male coming at me right now. Wow. Fantastic. These are huge birds. These are among the largest flying birds on Earth. They can fly as far as 50 to 150 miles in a single day and come back to the same roost at night. They just unfold their huge wings and off they go, up and higher and higher. I just love the way they come in with their 10-foot wingspans, 10 feet. That's incredible. When the thermals start rising along the cliffs, they just unfold their wings and up they go. Effortlessly, they can be 1,000 feet above you or 10,000 feet above you. These big males are the ones with the white collars, and they have kind of a interesting head shape. They also have white patches on the back of their wings, so I can always identify them coming in. What's amazing also about these birds is that their entire system of raising chicks is such that they breed only every other year and raise a chick every other year, because it takes so long to raise a bird of this size. These birds in the wild will live up to 50 years. They'll mate for life. And I love it when they come down right below me, so I can look straight down on them. What's amazing about these birds is that they're looking for other animals reacting to what's happening on the ground. In other words, if there's a dead animal, other animals will react to it. They're looking for carrion. They're looking for a dead guanaco, a dead sheep. They're not choosy as long as it's dead. Shooting with digital allows me to keep clicking. In the past, the minute I had something great, I'd have to be changing rolls of film.
These birds are really built for these high Andes, and they just are amazing when you watch them soar right above you. Ah, nice, 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 nice.
The peaks of wild Patagonia guard the fragile beauty of this isolated part of the planet. From its unique wildlife to its dramatic landscapes, Torres del Paine perches on the edge of the earth. I'm Art Wolfe. Join me on Travels to the Edge.